Exposed. The mansion was finally quiet. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the billionaire stopped breathing. And the only person who could save him was the woman he decided to test one last time. The night Conall Adewale exposed his wife, the world believed the story had reached its end. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. Social media erupted. Vanessa Adewale was arrested in front of the same mansion she once ruled. Handcuffs replaced diamonds. Silence replaced lies. People called it justice. Conall called it emptiness. When the last police car drove away, the mansion fell into a strange stillness. Not peace. Not relief. Just absence. Conall stood alone in the grand hallway, listening to the echo of his own footsteps. For years, the house had been filled with performances. Smiles without warmth. Touches without meaning. Love spoken without truth. Now, there was nothing. And somehow, that felt heavier than betrayal. Conall returned to his bedroom without turning on the lights. He sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the glasses he no longer needed. Blindness had once protected him. Sight now forced him to see everything clearly. The cracks in the walls. The cold luxury. The loneliness hiding behind wealth. He removed the glasses slowly and placed them on the nightstand. For the first time in years, he didn't know who he was without the act. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the pain hit. It wasn't sharp at first. It was pressure. A tightening grip around his chest. His breathing shortened. He tried to inhale deeply, but the air refused to fill his lungs. Conall stood up instinctively. His knees buckled. The room spun violently. He reached for the nightstand. Missed. A glass of water fell to the floor, shattering loudly against the marble. The sound echoed through the mansion like a gunshot. Conall collapsed beside the bed. His phone slid across the floor, stopping just inches beyond his reach. So close. Too far. His vision blurred. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Conall tried to call out for help. Nothing came. Downstairs, faint music drifted upward. Someone was still awake. Someone was still in the house. But no one came. As darkness crept into his vision, a terrifying thought crossed his mind. So this is how it ends. Not with applause. Not with headlines. Not with revenge. But alone. On a cold floor. Surrounded by wealth that could not save him. Footsteps suddenly echoed in the hallway. Fast. Panicked. "Sir." Amara's voice cut through the silence. She dropped to her knees beside him without hesitation. Her hands trembled as she lifted his head. "Stay with me," she whispered. She grabbed his phone and dialed emergency services with shaking fingers. Her voice broke as she spoke. But she stayed calm enough to act. She loosened his collar. Checked his breathing. Kept talking to him, even when his eyes struggled to stay open. "You're not alone," she said softly. "Please don't leave." Those words followed him as the ambulance lights flooded the room. The ride to the hospital blurred into fragments. Sirens. Bright lights. Voices overlapping. Conall drifted in and out of consciousness. But one thought repeated clearly in his fading mind. "If she hadn't been here, I'd be dead." He woke up hours later. White walls. Steady beeping. Conall blinked slowly, disoriented. A doctor stood beside his bed, reviewing a chart. "You're lucky," the doctor said quietly. Conall swallowed. "What happened?" The doctor leaned closer. "You were poisoned." The words hit harder than any betrayal. "Poisoned. Not enough to kill you," the doctor continued, "but enough to weaken your heart. If help had come later," he added, "the outcome would have been very different." Conall closed his eyes. His mind raced. Vanessa was already arrested. Her lovers were in custody. So who wanted him weak? Who wanted him scared? When visiting hours began, Connell expected someone to arrive. A friend. A relative. A business partner. No one came. Hours passed. Still nothing. Except Amara. She sat quietly beside his bed. Hands folded. Eyes swollen from crying. She didn't speak unless spoken to. She didn't ask for anything. She was simply there. When Connell finally opened his eyes fully, she smiled. A small, tired smile. "I'm glad you woke up," she said. That smile scared him. Because he had seen smiles before. Vanessa smiled too. But this one wasn't practiced. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. And that made Connell uncomfortable. Over the next 2 days, the truth became impossible to ignore. No flowers arrived. No calls came in. No one checked on him. Not the friends who once begged for his attention. Not the relatives who lived off his generosity. Not the partners who owed their success to his name. Only Amara returned. Every day. She brought soup from home. Adjusted his blankets. Sat through the silence. At night, Connell watched her pray quietly in the corner of the room. She never prayed for money. She never prayed for reward. Only for his recovery. That terrified him. Because Connell had already made one mistake. He had trusted someone who loved his power, not his pain. And now, another woman stood beside him. Unwavering. Unpaid. Unrecognized. Was this real, or just another illusion? When he was finally discharged, Connell didn't return to the mansion immediately. He sat in the car, staring at the estate from a distance. The gates looked different now. Colder. Like a trap disguised as comfort. Amara waited quietly in the passenger seat. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't rush him. She simply waited. Connell made a decision in that moment. A dangerous one. If betrayal could hide behind luxury, then truth would reveal itself in loss. He would test reality. One last time. The next morning, the headlines exploded. Billionaire's fortune frozen after scandal. Connell Aduwal loses everything. Empire collapses overnight. The world believed it. And Connell watched. Silently. As the truth prepared to reveal itself. After the headlines broke, the world moved fast. Faster than Connell expected. Banks froze accounts. Credit lines vanished. Deals paused, pending investigation. Cars were quietly removed from the driveway. Security was reduced to a single guard at the gate. The mansion that once felt invincible suddenly felt exposed. Connell didn't fight it. He allowed the illusion to spread. He wanted to see what remained when the money disappeared. Within 48 hours, his phone became silent. No congratulatory messages. No concern. No loyalty. The same people who once begged for meetings now sent brief texts filled with polite distance. Let's reconnect later. Wishing you strength during this season. Hope things improve. Connell read every message without replying. He moved out of the main mansion and into the small guest house on the edge of the property. 1 bedroom. 1 bathroom. No luxury. No staff. Just quiet. He wanted discomfort. He wanted truth. The first night there, the silence was louder than the mansion had ever been. Connell cooked his own food. Burned it. Ate anyway. He sat alone at a small table, staring at the wall, listening to the hum of an old refrigerator. For the first time in decades, he felt invisible. The next morning, he called Amara. His voice was calm. Almost detached. "I can't pay your salary anymore," he said. "You don't have to stay." There was a pause on the line. Long enough for doubt to creep in. "Are you okay?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. "I'll manage," he replied. Another pause. Then she said it. "I'll stay. No bargaining. No conditions. Just a decision." Connell ended the call without knowing how to feel. Relief felt dangerous. Hope felt foolish. Days passed. Then weeks. The estate continued to empty. Staff resigned quietly. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered. Rumors spread quickly. "He's finished. She ruined him. He deserved it." Connell heard everything. He said nothing. Amara continued to show up every morning. She cleaned the guest house. Cooked simple meals. Never complained. Never asked about money. At night, she prayed quietly, believing he couldn't hear her. Connell heard every word. She prayed for his health. For his peace. For strength. Never once did she pray for restoration. That scared him more than abandonment ever could. One afternoon, a black SUV pulled up to the gate. Vanessa's mother stepped out, followed by her brother and a lawyer. They didn't knock. They demanded entry. Their voices carried across the estate. Accusations flew like knives. "You destroyed her life. You planned this. That maid manipulated you." Staff watched from a distance. Eyes filled with doubt. Connell stood by the window of the guest house, listening. Waiting. They confronted Amara directly. Called her names. Accused her of seduction. Claimed she had orchestrated everything from the beginning. Amara stood still. She didn't shout. She didn't defend herself. She didn't look at Connell. She simply absorbed it. Connell could have stopped it. One word would have ended everything. He said nothing. Silence was part of the test. That night, Amara didn't pray. She packed her bag. Folded her clothes carefully. Cleaned the small kitchen one last time. She wrote a note and placed it neatly on the table. "I stayed because it was right. Not because I was promised anything." She left before sunrise. No goodbye. No confrontation. Connell woke up to an empty house. Her absence was louder than any accusation. He sat at the table, reading the note over and over again. Hours passed. The same morning, his phone vibrated non-stop. Legal team. Banks. Advisors. Assets restored. Accounts unlocked. Case resolved. Everything returned. Just like that. The illusion ended. The truth stood naked. Connell stared at the phone without satisfaction. Wealth meant nothing in an empty room. He had passed the test. And failed the moment that mattered most. Connell didn't celebrate the restoration of his fortune. He didn't call his lawyers back. He didn't return to the mansion. He sat alone in the guest house, staring at the note Amara had left behind. The words didn't accuse him. They didn't beg him. That was what hurt the most. She hadn't stayed for money. She hadn't left for pride. She left because she refused to be tested again. And for the first time since the betrayal, Connell felt fear. Not fear of losing wealth. Fear of losing something real. He replayed every moment in his mind. Her calm voice on the phone. Her quiet prayers. The way she stayed when everyone else vanished. He realized something too late. Love doesn't prove itself loudly. It proves itself when no one is watching. Connell stood up suddenly, grabbed his keys, and drove. Not with guards. Not with drivers. Just him. He searched hospitals first. Then shelters. Then clinics. Hours passed. Night fell. The city lights blurred as exhaustion set in. Then he found her. A small medical clinic on the edge of town. Underfunded. Overcrowded. Amara stood at the front desk, helping an elderly woman fill out paperwork. She looked tired. Thinner. But unchanged. Still gentle. Still present. Connell watched from a distance. She wasn't performing. She wasn't waiting. She was giving. When she finally noticed him, she froze. No smile. No anger. Just surprise. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. Connell swallowed. "I know," he replied. "I shouldn't have done a lot of things." She turned back to her work. He followed her outside. The night air was heavy. "I lied," he said. Again. She nodded. "I figured. I told the world I was broke." Silence. "I wanted to know who would stay." She looked at him then. Really looked. "And what did you learn?" He struggled for words. "That I confuse fear with wisdom. And control with protection." She didn't soften. "You tested love like it was a business deal," she said. "Love doesn't survive audits." Connell felt every word. "I didn't stop them," he admitted. "When they accused you." Her expression changed. Hurt surfaced briefly before she hid it. "That was the moment I knew I had to leave," she said. "Not because they spoke. But because you stayed silent." Connell nodded slowly. "I know." He took a breath. "I'm not here to test you anymore." She waited. "I'm here to choose." The word hung in the air. Amara looked away. "Choosing means risking," she said. "I've already been risked." Connell stepped closer. "Then let me risk something this time." He reached into his pocket and removed his wallet. Then his watch. Then his phone. He placed them all on the bench between them. Symbols of power. Of status. Of control. "I don't want to be loved because of what I have," he said. "I want to be loved for who I am when everything is gone." She studied him carefully. "And if everything is gone?" she asked. "Then I'll still stay," he replied. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke softly. "Never wanted your wealth." He nodded. "I know. I wanted honesty." "You have it." She searched his face. "And no more tests." "No more tests." Silence stretched. Then she exhaled. "If we do this," she said, "we do it without lies." Connell dropped to one knee. Not dramatically. Not for attention. Just truth. "I don't have a ring," he said. "But I have a life I'm willing to live honestly." Tears filled her eyes. She laughed softly. "You really don't know how to do things normally, do you?" He smiled for the first time in weeks. "I'm learning." She nodded. "Then get up," she said. "We start as equals." They married quietly months later. No cameras. No headlines. No spectacle. Just witnesses who mattered. The mansion changed. Not because of renovations. But because lies were no longer welcome inside its walls. Connell kept his wealth. But he stopped letting it speak for him. And Amara stayed. Not because she was tested. But because she was chosen. In the end, Connell learned the truth too many people discover too late. Love that is real does not demand proof. It reveals itself when everything else disappears. And sometimes, you have to almost lose everything to understand what was real all along.